Good morning, Carnivore Dolly, and today is Sunday, March 23rd, and it is about 5 to 11 a.m. I wanted to get a video done today because I have plans for tomorrow with, the fam. So I won't be home a lot of the day, and plus I need to do some shopping at Wally and everything. So today I am 153. No, 150.3. Sorry. Um, I just the other day, what day was it? Actually, Saturday, yesterday morning, I started to tighten up my carnivore again because I kind of got off the rails last week and did a little extra cheating. I had an ice cream cone, different things like that, a little handful of chips here and there, like just kind of got off the rails. And that's fine. Getting it back together again today because, I do have some weight to lose. I want to get down another 5 pounds this week. Um, there was a time I was at 145 and I was very comfortable. I looked really, really good. But also, I think I was at the gym at that time and I was full of muscle. And right now, I just noticed, well, it's not I just noticed, but I do know that I still have some stomach left. So, and it's going slowly. Um, Kind of not really going slowly, but I mean, I know that I cheat. I know that I do that. For a long time, I was very strict. And then this past week, I got a little past the binge because had the kids over and, wanted to eat pasta, and then there was a ton left, and I had it for 3 days, and a couple of those days I had it twice in a row. So it kind of went off the rails, and that's fine. I didn't quit. I started again yesterday with just meat. One thing I did notice, a couple of things I wanted to mention. Okay, one thing I did notice, last Tuesday night I had 2 extra beer, like out of because usually I'm on Friday nights and that's pretty good. But last Tuesday night, for some reason, well, I was on a binge, like I was doing my cheating and things like that. And I sat down and had 2 beer, and I thought, you know what? I finally understand what Dr. Atkins was saying many years ago. I read his book, and he talked about beer. And I realized there are no such thing as alcoholics. They're only sugar addicts. That's all it is. It's a sugar addict. Because of my cheating, and I was trying to go back and, like get stricter. But I felt like, oh, just what can I have that's just, and then it's like, yeah, I'll have 2 beers. So that's a sugar addict. The other thing, I may have already mentioned this before. A girl came on. Yeah, I did mention it before, but I like to repeat myself because, she had mentioned that she didn't lose her bust size. So now that I realize I've mentioned it before, I don't like mentioning it again, but I'll get through it. Okay. She didn't lose any of her bust size, so neither have I. When I did low carb, I thought that boobs were fat. And now, and being a Tatarian type, researcher, I realized that that boobs are muscles. And all those old statues, which I'll show you in a bit, had looked like they had bust jobs. They probably did. I mean, it was a world for like 2,000 years, you know. They could have probably easily had bust jobs. Like they knew 10 times what we know today, obviously. And but it seems to me that they're a muscle, not fat. When I did low carb, I thought they were fat. Now doing carnivore, I think they're a muscle. Okay. So last week I said we're going to take a look at the statues. and that's what I want to do. These are statues claimed to be made in, claimed to be made in the 1800s, whatever. They're on all the old buildings, and they're in the graveyards, like all the big graveyards, down in like Brazil, like that area, Argentina, New Mexico, basically. Barely nothing in Canada that I can find. And they're in Italy, they pretend they're Italian statues or Greek, but they're also in London and things like that. So I'm going to read some information. Okay. These are screenshots that I have on this is my newer phone that I'm reading off of because I lost all the information I had on this phone. So, and this one here is very hard to take pictures on. But okay, so I'm going to start right here. Of the 1,700 bodies removed from that cemetery in the last year, 7 were petrified, and all such were found in graves that were partially filled with water. All the graves near Cumberland, maybe, and Street, okay, and some near 19th Street had water in them. They had been dug too deep down, 8 or 9 feet. We never found any petrified bodies in the earth alone. There is some mineral in that water that causes the body to petrify. Now, I'm not sure, but these are newspaper articles from the archives. And I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking the bodies that petrified were the bodies from the flood, because it's not that they really actually petrified. But if you read the book, it's called the Kibra Nagast. Kibra Nagast. It's a book. And on page 101, it says that the waters from the flood were beyond freezing. So if anyone's ever watched the children's show, it's like must be a Disney. It's called Frozen with the girls, whatever their names were. If you watch that and how those girls froze, that's exactly what happened in the flood. The people froze before they died. They froze and turned to stone. Okay. In the Bible, for us people, in the Bible, it does say, from dust you were made, and from dust you'll return, or to dust you'll return. So for us people that don't have that blood that they have, they petrify and turn to stone. So I believe, like, what happened, like, in the 1800s, middle 1800s and on, they had these little kids out on the street with the newspaper, and they're saying, extra, extra, read all about it. And of course, most of the news, almost all of the news is a lie. Like, I just watched a news not so long ago where the airplane flipped over. And I mean, that's to make sure, you don't travel too far, like scare you, keep you scared. That's what this world's always been about. Keep you scared. Okay, about 5 months ago, we found a body petrified black. The nails, the fingers, and the toes were all intact, and the whole body was one solid stone. All the coffins that we take out of the deep graves are filled with water, and we have to tap the casket to let the water out. A petrified body weighs a great deal, and with the water in the coffin, it takes 6 or 8 men to raise it out of the grave. A petrified mother and her baby were interred about 4 months. Disinterred 4 months ago. I remember her in life, for she has been dead only 9 or 10 years. So the newspapers were still already corrupted. They wanted to tell you things, and they did tell you a lot of things, but they corrupted those newspapers. They twisted them. We don't petrify. The Cain's children petrified. Okay? It says in the next article, in the old Hills of Eternity Cemetery, there are just 3 bodies left, 3 having been removed yesterday. But in the old home of peace burying ground across the street, 25 or 30 graves still remain unexplored after the removal of 2,000 bodies in the course of 5 years. Okay, let's see another one. Find of petrified bodies. 9 petrified bodies have been found in the cemetery attached to the New York Infant Asylum at Mount Vernon. The asylum was closed recently and the land was sold to syndicate that purpose to develop the property. 300 bodies are to be transferred to the Kensico Cemetery. The bodies have the appearance of white marble and the soil is sandy. So, yes, the soil will turn one of their bodies to marble, yes. Meanwhile, they say that people made those, and I'll show you pictures of the veils on these people that I don't think that could be made. Some people do, whatever, you believe your own thing. But I will try to show you if I can come up with these, with these videos, or if you can even see them. I'm going to try to tape them from one phone to the other. Not tape them, but, try to show you from one phone to the other. So we're going to start with this video. I'll turn it right down and make the picture big. Try to show you different things on here that I've seen. Okay, I don't know if I can turn my phone around. I'll have to do it this way. But I need a marker. But look at these. These things, can you actually see this? I don't think you can see this. But we'll try to show it. I can see, if I do it this way, I can see what you're seeing. And you're going to see people with, dried eyes. Like their eyes, the round part, there, you can see. Let me see if I can pause that for a second. I wanted to show you the mark of Cain. So the mark of the beast was, the first mark of the beast was given to Cain. Not really to Cain, but, and see, I mentioned that the Bible, a lot of people say the Bible is the Word of God. Well, this Bible has been changed so many times. And I mean, they have the Vulgate and the Septuagint and the Dead Sea Scrolls and all of this here, When I first started getting into this, I read that it wasn't an apple that Eve, or that the snake gave to Eve off the tree. Eve had sex with Satan, because after this happened, God changed. And it says this in the Bible, God did change the serpent, or it doesn't say the angel, it says he turned him into a snake or into a serpent. He put enmity between Eve's seed and the serpent's seed. The serpent's seed was Cain. When Eve bare Cain, she said, I've got me an angel. No, I've got me a man, she said, from an angel of the Lord. So it was an angel in the garden that God turned into a snake, into a serpent, which is a snake. So these children of Cain all had, and this is why God said too, I'll make you crawl on the ground. So yeah, it's not just, so the mark anyway that Cain got and his children got were of a serpent on their heads, and I don't think I'll get it, But look at these veils. Those can't be made by people. Like, come on. But the mark that they got was an angel on their head. Now, last week I said we got the mark of God, and I said we've got the Y, the A, and the W, but it's not a W that we got. It's Yah, so it's Y, A, H. So the two lines there and the cross, so H. So that's Yah. What they got was an angel mark on their head. You can barely see it, but that's not all they got. They got shiny skin or scales like serpents, and they got actually a trumpet hand. So a hand kind of like this. Now, does that mean that every one of his children got that? No, but a lot of them did. And you'll see a lot of statues without hands on them or hooves. A lot of, because in the days of Jared is when the whole world was beginning to get corrupted. Angels came down from heaven and started, they had sex with everything and everyone. They bore the giant children, you know. Yeah. So these people got all kinds of different things. But the one thing that they all have is you can see this flatness on their nose. It's like there's no dip here like we have a dip. They have the flat nose. And that is the angel. And up here, it actually almost looks like it on me, which, whatever. But up here, they have the wings that come off of them. On the pictures, you'll have to look at these pictures closely to understand it. This here is Penny Lane, and that's the person who makes these videos. Hard to find at first, but if you keep at it, you'll find them. So Cain's children had the mark of the beast. They had trumpet hands mostly, and one trumpet hand, not both, because they, had something to do with the other hand. They mostly had the angel on their face. Did every little person get that? No. But I would say the angel mark they did, once you see it, you can unsee it. You see it and you're like, oh, okay. So that's what the flat nose is about, like from the forehead down to their nose. It's flat because it's an angel there. And can you see it on them? When you can see it, you can't stop seeing it. You can, But yeah, what happened with these angels, you will see some wet angels in here, like in the video. You'll see some very wet angels right there. That's one. She's a wet angel. But I don't know how much these people could fly either. I would say they could fly maybe 5 minutes. See the bodily fluids coming out of these things? And at one point, it was like they couldn't have been from the flood. Like that's, at least 1,000 years ago. But they're stone, so they won't, they're not going to melt in the rain and, and when they're in these gardens, of course there's garden keepers or, in these, there's people that, film graveyards and things like that. And, yeah, they're garden keepers, like they take care of the cemetery. And that's where you'll see most of these kind of angels. But I have seen them, other people's drone work. They will go down and they'll see and they'll be like, that's a statue. And it's like, holy Jesus, these things are all over the place. I guess it was Ham or some relation to Ham who had gathered these things and, brought them to different places to be, people wonder what, like they say that this Bible is religious. Religion is worshiping people. That's what religion is. So if you're watching TV still, you might want to turn it off, but most people won't because they're indoctrinated. Um, but on these things, on these angels, you see a lot of dried up eye sockets is what it looks like. You see their bodily fluids are coming out. You see the veils that can't be made today. Just, you can see some of them are already dead. But once these floodwaters touched even your toe, you began to freeze. Just like I said, like the Frozen show, you began to freeze. Why didn't these people fly up in the air? They did. Um, some of them did. But when the water touched their toes, but I don't think they could fly that long. Like maybe 5 minutes, maybe. Like they got something that didn't work on them. Like it wasn't like they could fly across the sky or like, well, they could maybe 5 minutes, but you got to land, you got to touch your feet on the ground. So the book, yeah, that you can read about those floodwaters, well, it only mentions that they were cold as ice. And not so long ago, I seen this new guy who's out, who's good to watch if you're new to this. And his name is The Fittest Flat Earther. But he was showing the ice from the firmament that we believe is from the firmament. For me, myself, with this guy, I've seen all of this a long time ago. I learned everything I learned pretty much right off the hop. I went from flat earth right to Tataria, right to every little thing that is a lie. Well, I'm sure I don't know everything. Most people don't know everything. Yeah, another wet body. But I've had a real interest in these things because there's a feeling that you get. And it's like you need to know more information, like in some of these things. Is this over? I'm going to show the other one as well while I'm at this, if I can. I know you're not seeing a good picture, and like I said, the person to watch for these is Penny Lane. This is still hers. I'll try to get that, yeah. So yes, these things were definitely alive, like I said. What else can I say about them? They're like the poses that they did, like you will see the trumpet hands on some people. You'll also see on some of these other people, you will see that they had horses' feet, and there's also like casts. It looks like casts of people's faces and things like that in a frame on a grave site. And depending on where it is, not saying they can't do it today, but most people won't, do that and waste it on a dead body, and not really waste it, but who knows the kind of money they had. They have. I think people waste their money on the living, not on the dead. But let's see. And oftentimes, if they couldn't like hide that trumpet hand that a lot of them had, they cut them off so that you couldn't see. What they don't want us to know, they don't want known. Like it's just, hidden. So yeah, they're from the flood. They froze these things. The casts, as I was saying, the casts, they're in a frame. They were actually people too, most of them. Like I said, people don't spend that much money to have that much detail put into a picture. These were parts of these people. And these people were all over the earth. Well, actually, I believe the place was called Atlantis. And I'll talk a little bit about that uh, next week. Atlantis and where Judah was and the Dead Sea. Atlantis was in America. Atlantis is what Plato talked about. Um, Atlantis was, now I'm not sure if it was before the flood, and I'm going to say it was. Is the flood is America the only place that sank? Well, you'll have to wait for next week for that one. So, yeah, so Cain was the child of the serpent and Eve. But with God, he was quite mad at Adam and Eve. So what really went on there? I don't want to say too much because now I'm godly and I don't want to, but I think something bigger. So what I'm trying to say is, if the Bible is the Word of God, why isn't all of this known information? Why are things being hidden from us? And who hid them? You know? Is it the ones ruling us now? Okay, I don't really have anything else to say. I don't think I can prove this anymore except to say most of these angels, you see the lumps in their wings like this, like the bone. And if you were just doing art, say they're just art, then in Canada would not have the same art as they got in Italy or down in Mexico or down in Argentina or whatever. Why would everyone have the same art? No, they were the petrified bodies of Cain's children. That's all I got today. Have a good day.